homepage.
Don't forget, make a shortcut so you don't have to keep going and finding it. Okay, I should be sharing my screen on the Zoom session if you want to go ahead and jump in. We have a few housekeeping things to do, of course, at the beginning of the semester, since I bailed on you that second day. The first thing is setting up Slack. Now, a lot of you might already have Slack accounts because you've set them up in other classes. Come on, you silly. There it is. That's better. But if you don't, let's set one up. We're going to use OTCCIS.slack.com. That URL, if you notice, is set up just for OTC CIS department. So that means you won't be able to join unless you use your OTC email. So that means Slack is a little bit more secure than just using, I don't know, some sort of messaging system that's open to the whole world. So really all Slack is just a messaging platform. And it's just for us to be able to send messages back and forth. We can send pictures and files and things like that too, but we're more concerned about messages. So OTCCIS.slack.com and create an account.
It's not the right password. I don't remember my Slack account.
And you can say you forgot password. It has to be your OTC email address.
I sincerely hope I did not just save that.
We used to be able to find it. I didn't put the attendance sheet in the back to sign in, you guys. I got the seating chart made instead, so I've got everybody down. Do that next time. Now, as you're setting up your Slack account, we won't ever do anything in class where I would like give you negative points for not having a Slack account. That's okay, it's up to you. Some people have a lot of accounts and a lot of different things. But Slack is something that you can load on your phone. So you can have a Slack app on your mobile device, and then you can message people and ask for help. And that's usually what we're trying to do here with it. Whenever you join our Slack station, I guess, for lack of a better word, like I said, you have to be an OTC student. And then once you get the Slack station joined, you can join different channels. So do you see the spot where you can find the channels? Because it looks a little different than mine since I already have them. So one channel that I want you to find and join is this upcoming events. That's the one I'm looking at here. And upcoming events is all of the things that are coming. And so Dr. Ford and me and Mark Lee will post things here for upcoming stuff. So like Kirsten, I made a post for that Raspberry Pi thing Friday. I hope you knew about it if you're interested. If not, you'll know now if you stay on Slack. We put all of the meetups from the different meetup groups on this upcoming event. Dr. Ford is awesome about as soon as a message comes out for a meetup, she just posts it in the upcoming events channel. So you're always up to date here looking at this upcoming events. Always know what's going on. And remember, if you go to any of these events, take a selfie of yourself there and post it to the assignment in our modules, and that'll give you extra credit at the end of the semester. So if you go to a lot of these things, just keep adding more assignments, that's fine, telling me that you went so that you can get your extra credit for going to these. They'll help you with your career and they'll help you with your networking so that you know people when you're looking for a job. Now the one that we're going to use for our class is Riley CIS150 SP19. So if you join that one, that's just going to be you guys and the other C# class. Once everybody's joined, I'll make it private so that nobody else can see it. And I'll set it to where I don't get notified of messages. So you'd have to DM me if you want me to know to see the message. But that way you guys can discuss all the things that you want to discuss. Did you have trouble getting this in hypergrade? What did you do about that? Did you do this other thing? So that you guys have a platform where you can talk about those kinds of things. You're going to have issues. It just happens. And Then another one that's really important is job postings. Job postings, again, Dr. Ford is always putting things out here, and she gets told by employers all around the Springfield area if they need an intern, if they need to hire somebody. It can be like, gosh, she'll get told about jobs where they just want somebody to create Word documents, all the way to database administrators and network administrators. So she always posts that information here on this job postings channel, so you can find out a lot of things. Now, this isn't the only place, of course, and like sometimes, like the O'Reilly internships hadn't, nobody did like emailed her directly, so it might not be out here. It's not your only source, but it's a really good source of information. So growingdeers.tv wants some people that like guns. You guys, there you go. And then another one that's important, degree questions. If you look at this channel, you'll see it's not very busy. It hasn't had any posts for a really long time, but when there is a post, it's important to that person. They're like, I need to get registered for class. What can I do here? And Dr. Ford or Mark Lee or I will always see it, and we can get back to you right away so that you don't have to wait to have a meeting with somebody or something like that. So I think those are important ones. The C# programming channel is more general than our CIS150 channel. So the CIS150 is private for you guys. C# programming is public, and there are some people in that channel that belong to that channel that graduated years ago. And so if you have programming questions or even questions about what might happen in an interview, those guys are always out there, and they offer some really good advice because they've been around. So you can use the Slack channel for all sorts of things, but that's what we see a lot of. I have an interview next week at such and such company. Has anybody else gone there? What should I expect? What was it like? What kinds of things should I study before I go? So that kind of stuff is always really, really helpful. Any questions about it? Got slacked up there. Okay, so I'm going to close this. And it will give you a lot of really good information if you ask each other. That's what we want. Okay, so tools. Today we're looking at tools, huh? I want to log on to office.com. So I'm going to open a web browser and go to office.com. Sneaky, huh? Now, when you guys go there, you should see a sign in button. Go ahead and sign in using your OTC account, your OTC email and password. We're going to look at OneNote because OneNote is just a great place to keep your notes. I want you to see all of them. And before we can use OneNote, we need to get logged into office.com. You won't have these weird glitchy things at home, but here on our network, there's some network blocking and things that are causing some trouble. So we're just going to try to get around it. So if you've logged on to office.com, the thing for you to notice is if you haven't installed at home, here's your install Office button. So remember, office.com gives you Office, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, Access, all of those tools for free. The other tool, Microsoft Imagine, gives you all the other Microsoft products. Visual Studio, Server. Yes, sir?
So like I just bought a new laptop and paid a couple $100 for Microsoft Office. I didn't have to do that.
Right.
We only have, what is it, 5 downloads though?
From Imagine?
No,
From this?
Office, yeah, like 5 downloads or something like that.
From yours, somewhere it says, so like it, yeah, yeah, only need the one.
I paid like, they give you the Office like 1 year of lifetime. There's like a couple of bucks.
Oh, well, so you'll never have to worry about it again?
Yeah, sweet.
That's awesome.
I do know that if you do it through the office.com, it's a perpetual license as long as you're alumni.
As long as you're around, right. So having your own copy is always better.
Yeah, because once you are no longer an alumni, you get dropped from it.
Yeah.
The license no longer works.
Then nothing. I'm trying to find it somewhere around here. It tells you how many installs you've had. There it is. So if you click on your picture or where your avatar would be, and you choose my account, one of the options that it shows you is your install status. And I have 5 installs, and that's the limit. So if I needed to add another computer, which I probably will before too long, I would need to deactivate one of these other ones that are old, which won't be a problem because I'm not using them anymore. But yeah, if I was actually using 6 computers, then I would have trouble. But you can always go in and deactivate those installs that you're not using anymore to free up some of those licenses. So yes, awesome, you can get it for free, but it is controlled by OTC. You buy it yourself, it's controlled by you. So that might be worth a couple $100, depending on the day. To me, it would be.
So you just explained that the only difference is if you like become unenrolled or don't graduate, then you lose the ability to do it. Is that right? Yeah.
Right, and it's going to give you some messages and some warnings about it.
Unsolicited version of Word, just to be able to make Word documents, but like you can't hold things, you can't edit.
You'll be like on the web-based version.
It'll just, well, it's even worse than that. Like you just can't edit anything.
You can just type text, that's it.
Yeah.
But you could go to a monthly or a different subscription then, right?
It's just off your
So it doesn't make it where you can't get to any of your files, which is nice. I didn't know that. That's good. Go to Open Office.
Yeah,
No, LibreOffice is better than
Like, I was going to say Open Office hasn't been updated since 95 or something. I think Libre's a little better, but yeah, you can get around it, but always buying it yourself is going to give you the most freedom. Because if you look at the way OTC has it installed, you know, they're controlling a lot of stuff. So there might be things where you would rather have your own version, your own license. I would, I'm just not rich. So, okay, get back to it. I do. All right, if you got logged on to office.com, you can really close out of this window now. And this is where things get kind of glitchy. We want to run OneNote, but I don't want to run that cloud-based version. I want to run OneNote from your desktop. Let me close this one I have open. So now what it's going to do to you, for me, it's going to just open right up. I don't know why, because OneNote has a life of its own. For you guys, some of you, it might prompt you to log in again, and then it's not going to work because you can't get logged in through the desktop because of whatever network rules they've put in. So when that login comes up, just cancel, and it should still load OneNote. Where I want you to go is after you click cancel, click on File, New. And I want to make sure everybody is here at this screen where we're going to be able to create a new OneNote notebook. Through there in the version. And that's what I was saying, it's not going to let you. You're going to have to switch. And you want to run OneNote from the desktop, not outside the desktop. Close out, find it on your start menu. It's super confusing, but if you run it from the cloud-based version, you won't have as many capabilities. Kind of like we was talking about Word being all disabled. If you run it from the desktop, you have more capabilities, but it won't let you log in. Would you file new? So just close that, and it should pop up with one. There we go. It's really, really easy, and I don't know why. The worst part of OneNote is getting your OneNote over created. Once it's created, it's all good and wonderful. So close out of that. And now it's just the file. It's really weird. That's why we went and logged on the cloud-based app. So it just doesn't work quite right. So now we're going to create a new notebook. Now I'm going to put my notebook on my OneDrive, but I'm going to do my OneDrive Ozark Technical Community College, because if I put it on my OneDrive, I'm going to be able to open it from home or on my phone or wherever I want to open it from, because it'll be cloud-based. But I want to browse here to decide where to put this notebook. these OneNote notebooks get pretty big, and so it's hard, they can be hard to move. In my OneDrive, I actually have a folder set up for OneNote notebooks, so I want to put it in there, and I'm going to name it CIS150 SP19 102. And you can put some dashes or hyphens in there or whatever you want to make it a little bit more readable. I'll put some dashes because that's a little ugly. And then click create when you're ready.
I don't want to invite him.
Yeah, when it pops up about inviting, you can say not now. Bless you. I don't know what kind of terrible allergens are trapped back there in the trapped room, but everybody keeps sneezing back there. We want to stay away. Might be those metal things. Okay, so this is OneNote. How many of you have used it? You've used it a lot? Quite a few? Not too many. Okay, great. You'll really like it. This is just another Office product. So the interface and everything is just like all the other Office products. You kind of know how to use it already if you know how to use Word. Like I said, the worst part is getting a new one created. OneNote gives you a trapper keeper. So if you remember Hartman had that a trapper keeper 21,000 or something that destroyed the world. Here it is, only it's e-based, so it's all electronic. So across the top, we're going to have tabs, and we can create our tabs for whatever we want in our notebook. So we can have tabs out the wazoo, however many you want. Then after we have tabs, inside each tab, we have pages. And we can put as many pages as we want inside each tab. So let's name this first tab. I think I'm going to name this, we're working with Chapter 3. So I'll name it Chapter 3 Decisions. Because we're actually going to have two sections of Chapter 3. We're going to have decisions and then looping. So I'll make this tab just the first part, just the decisions part. Just like any other file rename, just click in there and then click again to go into rename mode, or you can right click and rename on your tabs. Now that we have the tab set, we can name this page. Let's say this page is going to be, I don't know, notes. Now, because this is an Office product, it's kind of like Word, but it's almost kind of better. Because you know how Word only just starts over at the left margin and you have to type in a certain location unless you put in a text box. Well, wherever you click in OneNote kind of creates a text box. So I can say here is a note and here is another one. And I can move then my notes around, you know, with their own little title bars, however I want to change them, so we can get things set up the way we like. Now with our text, if I select text, of course I get the standard quick text format tool, but I could also go to the home menu and bring up most of the tools that are available on Word. Now, just like last time when we were looking at Visual Studio, and we saw that push pin pinned the windows to the location we were at, that's what happens here with these bars. I'm going to pin my menu bars because I don't like my menus rolling up all the time. You guys, if you like them to auto hide, that's fine. But I would rather pin mine so I can find things. Yay, some notes everywhere. Okay, so we got lots of notes. Make them different colors. How could we make them different colors? We could just format our text and make it a different color, or make it a larger font. We can do it however we like. We can get everything looking all awesome. Okay, so let's find some pictures to put in our OneNote notebook. I'm going to go to Chrome. And it looks like I've got like a few windows open. I should be able to find one I can use. So I'm going to look for decision making C#. And then I think I'll go to images and find a picture that is meaningful to me. And zoom in and see what I've got. Oh, look at that beautiful flow chart. Perfect. Of course, somebody's already pointing it out that this is the awesome picture. So I'm going to right click on it and copy this image and paste it in my OneNote notebook. Ah, what did I do wrong? I did something wrong. Let me try that again. I must have got their stuff. I'll do it this way. Click on it more. Now, I can take that picture, again, just like Word, move it around, resize it, change it. Now, when you're working with just your notes, and this is just your stuff, and you're not going to sell it or anything, there is no copyright problem with you pulling a picture in. I mean, this is just your notes. You could draw it if you wanted to. Now, speaking of drawing, if you had drawn something on a piece of paper, you just use your phone, take a picture of it, and put it in your OneNote notebook. And you could actually open OneNote on your phone. All the Office apps are available for download on your phone. And so you could just take the picture directly from OneNote if you wanted to. So it has so many capabilities. I'm not even sure how to tell you about them all. So let's look at what about a PowerPoint. So here I've got some notes for chapter 3. I'm going to create a new tab. And I'm going to say this is going to be chapter 3 PowerPoint. Now notice I created a whole tab just for this PowerPoint. So let's go get the PowerPoint. The one I want to grab the one in Canvas. And in Canvas for this week, let me get in student view so it doesn't look so ugly for you. Now, I can't see my week 3 stuff yet. Well, can I see my week 3 stuff? What do I need to do?
Complete all the week 2.
Complete all of them. It's all broken. So I only need this one that says mark done. I'm going to complete it. Now I should be able to get to the week 3 stuff. And I want to go into this first link, the video. So there are a couple of videos. They're both linked to the same page. One is about decision making and one is about looping structures. These you guys can consider your lectures for this for this week and next week. We're not going to go over these in class because we need to use our class time for practicing and doing that. So watch these videos. This one this week. This one next week. And again, because some people have a lot more experience than others with some of this stuff, some of you having multiple programming languages under your belt and some of you just one, so we've got a lot of differences. So I want this first one. So there's the video and then right underneath it is the PowerPoint. I'm going to grab that one because I'm going to pretend I'm getting ready to watch this video. And once I grab the PowerPoint now, I should be able to just click it and drag it onto my OneNote notebook. When I drop it, it asks me, do you want to attach this file or insert a printout? Well, I don't want to attach the file. If I attach the file, I just would get a link to that file. And that PowerPoint is just in my downloads folder. That's not a very good place. I definitely wouldn't want to attach it from there. So instead, I'm going to choose insert printout. Now this is going to take a while. And I think that all of us doing it at the same time makes it take even a little longer, which is okay. So we'll sit and watch it. I'll tell you a story. It's story time. Last spring, I got lucky enough to be able to go to a Microsoft conference in Vegas that OTC sent me to. And at this conference, there were people there from all over the world. There were a lot of people from the Netherlands because, you know, they're pretty computing literate over there. And there were a lot of Asian people, a lot of people from India, lots of different countries. And when I first got there, I noticed the very first session, every person was popping open their laptop and opening OneNote. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. You know, I've used OneNote a little bit, but every single person there, it didn't matter what country they were from, they were opening OneNote. And so, you know, I'm kind of just watching, see what they do. I'm a teacher, I got to learn, right? See what they do. And I started doing the same thing. So for that conference, every PowerPoint for every presentation I went to, I copied into my OneNote document. I copied and pasted the presenter's information, their picture and how to get a hold of them, a little bit of information about what the session I went to was. And now if I have a question about that conference, I can just open that OneNote document and I can find every bit of information about that whole conference. It's awesome. Well, I noticed that all of these people were doing this with these PowerPoints, and it does take a second. But if you paste it as a printout, you'll get a page basically for every slide in the presentation. So now as you scroll down, you can see every single slide on its own page. So that could be great. It might just be annoying, but really it's great because that means I can come to this page and I can do my own notes. So whatever I want to do here to supplement the information that's on the PowerPoint, I can do that right here in OneNote. So if I want to add another picture over here to the side, I could. Here are some notes. I could do all of those kinds of things. Now, because it's a Microsoft product, I also could draw. So I'm going to look at the drawing tab. I could find like a highlighter and maybe highlight some important things like selection statements or decision-making statements. I could do kind of that way if I wanted to. I could draw with touch if I had a touch screen, which I don't on this computer. But if I was using something else, I could insert shapes if I wanted to. So whatever we want to do with our OneNote notebook, we can do all of that stuff right here using all of these great tools. So you should use OneNote for all your notes, right? It's the way for you to keep all of your stuff together for the class. What if we want some sample code? I'm going to go back to my first tab, my chapter 3 decisions, and I'm going to add a page. And I'm going to make this one be like, oops, I don't have a pointer. Why do I not have a pointer? I just have this blue spot. How could I get back to my pointer? Yeah, on your draw menu, click on type again to go back to your pointer tool so that you can point and type. Now, in this one, I'm going to name this then sample code. And I'm going to go off and try to find our code for our Hello World program. So come with me because there's a couple of things I want to look at when we're looking at that project. I'm going to go to File Explorer and find it. Now, I know that whenever we were looking at Visual Studio, I showed you how you could set your save location and what was going on there. So when we were doing that, I went to my external hard drive and my documents folder. Now I left it kind of open-ended to you guys, mean of me, huh? And said, oh, I don't know, wherever you want to save it, save it. So now can you find it? This is your first step. See if you can find it. Now I can find mine because I know I put it in my CIS150 folder, and I created a folder like SP19. Can you find it? Now, when you find your project, we created it as Hello World. So whenever we clicked create on that new project screen in Visual Studio, the first thing Visual Studio did was create that folder. So I have a Hello World folder. Now if I click to enter that folder, to drill down into it, I'll see I actually have another Hello World folder inside of that one. This can be very confusing to everybody, but this is the way the project is structured. We have our primary folder. Inside of that, we have another folder, usually of the same name. and our .sln file. That's our solution file that we wanted to open with Visual Studio. When you look at your File Explorer, do you see that .sln?
Yep.
Yep. What would you do if you didn't?
Start all the way over.
No.
It might be hidden.
What could you do? You would just go to your View tab and check these boxes. Don't start over. Oh my God, all you need to do is check these boxes. So always ask before you start over. Sometimes it might be really easy. So I would check these boxes, show file name extensions, show hidden items. These should always be checked. You're a software developer. You want to know what's in your file system. If you aren't seeing that file name extension, you don't know what that file is named completely. And if you're not seeing hidden items, you wouldn't see this .vs hidden folder that you guys shouldn't have. So we want to make sure we're looking at hidden things and file name extensions. In any programming language, we want to make sure we have those set. Bad hidden folder. Okay, now let's go into our Hello World folder. Inside any Visual Studio project folder that we create, we're going to see at least 3 more folders. The bin folder being our binaries, our executables. The OBJ folder, which is like some object code things that we shouldn't have to worry about too much. And the properties folder. And then within our main project folder, we see our program.cs. It's always that .cs file that we're concerned about that has our code. So when you guys are turning in your second hypergrade thing, project, you're only going to be uploading this .cs file, right? So any of these other files are just going to confuse hypergrade. We just need that one .cs. So that's what's always going to be inside of a standard project. We'll look inside that bind folder here in a while, but for right now, we just need to be aware that there is stuff, it does matter, it needs to stay there, and we're looking for that .cs file. So if I double clicked on that .cs file right now, it would try to open it in whatever program was associated with CS files. Might be Visual Studio, might be Visual Studio 2010, but I'm going to take it in hand and I'm going to right click on it instead. And I'm going to say that I want this to open in Notepad++. I want to edit with Notepad++. Because all I want to do is see our C# code really fast. Now, if you remember this one from last time, it started out as our Hello World, but then we modified it to make it into this rocket app. And it says, sends the little messages out to the screen with different colors. Let's select this thing, do Control-A, Control-C, and then let's paste it into OneNote. Now, just like we did with our PowerPoint, I could have dragged and dropped that file onto OneNote. That might have been a lot easier than using Notepad++ to edit it, to get it copied, right? All of those different ways are possible. But I'm going to close Notepad++ now because I don't need it anymore. My big red X's. Now, why would I want to have this code here in OneNote? Let's try thinking about annotating it a little bit. I'm going to look at the Draw menu, and the first thing I want to do is I'm going to highlight my main. So this line, and it's opening curly brace, and it's closing curly brace. That's my main. So I think that I'm going to try a different color, and I'm going to highlight my class statement. My class statement has that opening curly brace and a closing curly brace. And then lastly, I think I'm going to highlight the namespace statement. And then I've got it all in green. So I could then put some text beside each thing. I'm going to switch back to the type tool. And I'm going to click here, I think by my namespace. And I'm going to put something like the namespace holds all the pieces together, kind of our project, right? So if you want a different summary, that's fine too. And then I'm gonna change the color on all of this text to match my highlighter. And then I can put it right over there with it. Then if I want to type a little bit more notes about my class, the class keeps functionally related items together. Now these items we're talking about are kinds of things for us to see yet, right? But at least we know that it's keeping them together. I'm going to change its color. Ew, I used this awful fuchsia, so I don't know. Let me find something that's close to it. That's close enough. Yeah, it's really owie. And then I'm going to add a little bit more in yellow for our main. So for the main method, we'll just say the main method is the starting point for the program. Now, because I made this one yellow, we noticed that the yellow text wasn't very visible. So instead, I'll just do a yellow highlight on that text to kind of make it match, and we could have done that same thing with the others. So now I've been able to use OneNote to help me technologically, because I can put my code in here and I can do some nice things like circling the verbs and stuff like that, right? I don't have to actually print it out and I can keep track of everything. Now, the way I imported that PowerPoint in, where it put each slide on its own page, you can also import videos like that from YouTube. So some students that I've seen who have really been like OneNote power users, what I would consider last semester, they had it set up where, like, as they went into a tab, they could look at the PowerPoint from that section. They had a page that had all of the videos embedded on that section. They had their sample code that they had been using, the answers to their exercise problems, kind of everything all tied together. So it's very organized, really nice, helpful way to keep everything. Whenever we're trying to keep track of all of our stuff, it can be hard to decide because we have so many tools available. Sometimes all the tools make it harder to keep track of things. But OneNote is a really good starting place. So it'll help you get everything organized the way you want it, keep it all together. So the next thing I have on my notes is about two numbers. How are you guys doing with that one? Good. Any debugging going on? I just wondered.
I would like to point out while we're on the topic of bugs that I was trying to make it work on REPL. And I was just following along with the little video you had, and it didn't like some of the things you did in the video. So I'm wondering if maybe some of the stuff in the video is outdated. I actually had to do a fair amount of searching just now in class. Visual Studio made it a little easier, had some additional resources to figure out the right way to get it done.
I don't know, because yeah, it came along before REPL did. So since it's using that different compiler, we could have a little bit of issue, but I wouldn't. So yeah, I wouldn't expect that many. Yes, Markley's duck obsession. So when you're troubleshooting and debugging, he's figuring it out in his way, saying bad things about REPL, which is fine. We all start saying bad things about things. But they have all these people out here theorizing, saying it helps you to solve problems if you talk about it with somebody. Well, what if nobody wants to talk to you about it? You've talked about it so much, they don't want to hear about it anymore. They're sick of it. They don't care. They just want you to go make money. Bring it back to them. Well, it's happened to a lot of people over the years. Somebody somewhere decided that if they just got out their little rubber duck, they could talk to their rubber duck and fix all their problems, solve all their problems. So they call that rubber duck debugging. So up here in the front is your C# rubber duck. You might get a rubber duck for another class, But you can come up here now and pick out your rubber duck for your C# class. So come on. You need a whole collection. Some people like to have all of them sitting up by their monitor looking at them. Would freak me out.
I have that one from iPhone.
We'll take a different one. Yeah, somebody left their rubber duck. Give it a hope. Give it a hope. We'll see if that person drops. They'll probably drop.
Yeah, I know. I love that. That's why I'm being picky.
But as long as you give it a home, it'll be okay.
Here's the game of this one thing for Java class.
There you go. So keep it. That's your Java duck. Come get a C# duck. I don't.
Dude, there's a pirate one. I guess.
We need some of that sticky
I
stuff.
I wanted to stick it.
I don't have any super glue at all.
Like, not even that. I'll just glue it over this spot on the table.
There you go. I have super duper heavy duty Velcro.
First one was a surfer. Not quite like surfer. He had a different surfboard.
Someone else did the other one out there. But they turned out, they were still the same sort of shit.
They'll stay there forever.
And they left giant snake.
I need one that reads.
Yeah.
Glad you're right.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well,
That's fine. Yeah, like tomorrow.
I don't know what that one was. Some muscle bodybuilder or something. The camo duck. Poor camo ducks. So yeah, when your duck gets really mad and squeaks back at you, then you know you should take a break.
That's the truth.
You should. I like beach duck. He's squeaky too. Okay, if everybody's got a duck, I'm gonna hide these.
First to fry, just like my brain.
Yeah, some of them aren't as squeaky as others. Now, I hadn't heard of it, but I think it's a great plan, so I just adapted right on. My son went to Mizzou, and he was in the honors dorm the first semester. And I was talking to him at finals time, and I was like, dude, what's going on out there? Where are you? Are you in some sort of riot or something? Is there people, are they like, and he goes, no, it's a stupid dorm. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, all these honors people are freaking out. And they were out in the hall, like yelling, like banging their heads against the wall, because they've all been taught to talk out loud to study. And so when they were freaking out because they were having a really stressful time at the end of the semester with finals, it got a little out of hand. So he moved dorms because he decided he didn't need to be in the honors dorm. It was going to be that crazy. So we're going to be nice to our ducks and just talk nicely to them, not throw them out the window like some of those people at Mizzou.
Ever be able to convince people to live in a dorm.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. He got an apartment after that one. He's like, these crazy people. Okay, so we are in such good shape. Now we're doing if statements this week. Next week, we are looking at looping constructs, and you'll see in C# they're practically the same. So you just have a little bit of difference in things. So it won't be any big deal. We do have a new REPL this week. How's everybody doing with that one from last week? Good, good. Pretty good. I didn't see too many of your names pop up, not having any of it done, but I know there are a few people who hadn't even gotten enrolled yet. So don't do that to yourselves.
I had to force in one of those things.
Do what? That's fine, that one. Yeah.
Now, on the hypergrade thing, is it always going to be like, I didn't have the exact number of hyphens that you use in that one line, and is it always going to be that exact to what you have? And is it necessary for us to have the exact, so we need to figure out?
Try to figure it out. The reason being, when you're a programmer, those little details can be very, very important. So we want you guys to start out at the very beginning, be very detail oriented and trying to get things to match up exactly. Now, there are some times when it just gets to a point where, you know, you can't tell because it's not something that's visible. It's like invisible in the spaces or something. There are some that can be crazy. So try your hardest to get it to match. If it's something that seems pretty clear to me, I'll take points off if it doesn't match, but I will still
So
grade
like,
it.
for instance, I put like a read key at the bottom line, so it stay open so I could read it.
Mhm.
And it took me almost 30 minutes to figure out that was telling it was crashing.
Right.
So
Yeah,
like if we submit it like that, we will lose points.
if it's crashing,
Well, like it was crashing because I had a read key on it. Like if I would have not been able to figure that out and submitted it, would you have taken points off?
Because Hypergrade kept seeing it as an extra line, instead of saying it wasn't correct.
You
No,
can click
it
on
wasn't
it
saying
and it
that.
shows you which lines it doesn't say it's crashing.
Mine got it. He said, you know, crack like
It's saying your program crashed here.
I'm trying to see, because there was a place where in our Hello World,
Or we could comment anything or.
it's in the Hello World, so it's kind of a hard one, but basically here it says that if you leave a console.read or read key command in your code, it'll cancel hypergrade. But it's just in that Hello World one. These are the kinds of things that, you know, they can only be told in so many different places in so many different ways. And so, yes, I would count off. Because in the very first hypergrade assignment, I mentioned how you can't do those things. Now, do I expect you to remember that realistically? No. But I also can't, you know, we can't realistically put all these instructions in every single one or nobody will ever read any of them. So those are the perfect things to take and ask the rest of the class about. So if you would just go ahead, something like that, like you're getting a really minor thing that doesn't kind of match, just ask everybody in Slack. Have you run into this? What am I doing wrong? Should I worry about it? And then everybody else can kind of work together. And that way you guys have each other on your side too, where I can see the whole class has been concerned about this issue. It's not right. It's not communicating properly, so that we can get it taken care of. Because otherwise, it's just you feeling like you didn't do it right, and you probably did it perfectly right. So go to Slack, ask everybody, what's going on with this stupid thing, you guys? And we'll use hypergrade just for about 5 assignments. So it's just meant to torture you for a very small amount, to get you very detail oriented. So yeah, we won't use it the whole semester by any means. So there's a new REPL, speaking of things that are super picky. And REPL is kind of the same way as hypergrade, and as a matter of fact, we could almost replace hypergrade with it, but it might be kind of confusing to know where you're supposed to go. So we'll keep it like this for now, and I'll look forward to any sort of comments you guys have to make. But let's go ahead and click on the new REPL course and make sure you can get into it. I don't have the link wrong or anything like that. This one is about decision making, and it's much shorter, but each of them is a little bit harder than that first set, because you know that first set where, you know, find missing semicolons and things like this. These ones will have you do some if statements to practice. Remember, if you're having a lot of trouble, read the instructions again, or ask your duck, what am I not doing right? And then read the instructions again and see if you can clarify by looking at it again and see what you think. So our project for this week is a fuel stop. You're just going to be deciding whether gas is cheaper on the US side or the Canadian side. So a pretty small if statement in there to decide which one is cheaper and output it. But let's see how we could get practice up here. In your textbook, if you have it, we're going to look at page 64. If you don't have it or you don't want to get it out, that's okay, because I'm going to put it up here on the screen, if I can. There it is. Now, when we look at chapter 3, it is kind of like those first 2 chapters. It has a lot of varied content. And one of the students this morning said he liked doing the REPL stuff better than the book. And that is the way it should be right now, because the REPLs are giving you the chance to practice, get that hands-on practice in, where the textbook is giving you more, you know, information type stuff for behind the scenes. And I swear we'll get to a point where this textbook gets really good, but it's the pretty advanced stuff. It's not as good here at the beginning. But what they have here is a little program to do some console I/O. Before that, in the chapter, they talk about how a C# program is built. That's some interesting information. Some additional members of the system class, some great stuff. And using the system console class. Well, we've already been doing that. You guys have done console.read, console.readline, write line. So you've gotten a lot of practice with that already. This is just the point in the book where they actually talk about it. Then data types and corresponding C# keywords. So they talk about declaring variables and different data types. Somewhere in here they have this great picture. Here it is. So this picture kind of shows us how all these data types are derived. We start out with the C# system object, and from that object, then we can have value type variables like booleans and chars and decimals and doubles and things like that. So we'll be working with all of these different data types throughout the semester, but that's where they actually kind of summarize that information for you. So anything like that, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of reading in it. And we'll be jumping around through the chapter. So we're not going to really focus on any specific content as much as zooming in on some of the content. So again, our first thing is if statement. So I'm going to go to page 64 again. I went past it or around it. And then I want to go down a little bit. So right here, they have this program. Now they have it in this other method. But what I would like you to do now is open Visual Studio, create a new project, make it a console project, and put this code in your main. Leave out that top 2 and that bottom line, and just put all this code in your main method. So let's see if you can do it. Open Visual Studio, create a new project.
We need to call it anything specific.
A good name would be CH3 Get User Data.
Whenever we create that in the Visual Studio, which one did we choose?
We need to console and we want the .NET framework.
We said at some point.
That's the way we want to use for now. So you wouldn't need that other way unless you would Google that. Oh, perfect. Look at you guys.
What do you say would be a good name there?
CH3 Get User Data is a good name.
This is one of my existing programs.
Oh.
And
why is four that with that? This is the new one that I made.
It always puts that in there for you.
This is what
So it'll put that little skeleton in there for you. Very interesting.
Was this we set this up on the first day? How you did this one?
That's the instructor facility. So it won't let you. Did you buy the online version of it?
This
Yeah.
This is the C.
Yep.
So we just type it in.
Yeah. That's what you use for your back. Yeah. That's exactly right. You had to type it. So yeah, Visual Studio will tell me about Is it the whole thing? Awesome. Or did you buy it? Did you buy the online? You just found it out there. I thought that's, you were just looking at that platform. Scare ya? Sure. And run it. Once you get the code in, go ahead and run it. Make sure you don't have any syntax errors or anything. Sure. It's like that. Okay, I think it's letting me. There you go.
Why is it doing that thing with the color echo?
I think someone clicking it. When
No, I
somebody,
mean in the code. There's the comment change echo color just for fun. But it.
oh, the comment itself is green?
There was a bit I missed.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm not sure.
You should change the text color.
It's like, I can see what it does, but I don't understand why they're doing that.
problem, though. You don't want to give a programmer leeway to have too much fun.
Then they go and become game designers.
So if we do have the textbook in the PDF, what are assignments later? From like the textbook online.
I don't know, because I got real sick, and so I haven't gotten the whole class done with our new
Oh.
textbooks, so.
Well, so let's say
Yeah.
hypothetically, there is something like that in the future,
Mhm.
like whenever you find it, would we be able to purchase the textbook then? Would that affect it?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, you should have it now, though. You know, I mean, there's
Yeah,
lots of material.
Because like I've got the PDF version that has like the whole textbook in it.
Oh, yeah, you're fine. That should be okay, the whole semester. I don't think that'll cause us any
I mean,
trouble.
like, where you click in the table of contents of the web.
No, it just won't let you guys do it, because that's the instructor. And you can find it, okay. Me too. Mouse over it. What's it say?
Inconsistent modifier style, missing private modifier.
So it's just mad about us doing things. Mine just turned all Christmassy, whatever I did.
Yeah, mine says use var instead of string too.
So in this program, there's a whole bunch of times they make you type that word console. Did you guys see something in the REPL that would make it where you didn't have to do that? What could we do there?
Using static system console.
Perfect, using static system console. Then I should be able to not have to put that console keyword on all that code.
And it would it just be like, for example, like right line would just be right line, no dot.
Right.
Okay, no dot.
No dot.
The dot. What about like stuff like console color?
So the console color you would still have to specify. It's only those things that do console dot.
Okay. So
So
anything that's a dot.
yeah, with just the dot after that keyword. And I don't remember why I put it on the foreground color. I don't know if I just missed that one. I think it disagreed with me somehow. I think it was the color yellow that I had to put, and I ended up with it on both sides.
So, would you say what would be like the, I guess, standard? Would it be used as static?
Static actually has only been available since Visual Studio 2015. So if you guys went out and you were on an interview, you could actually have someone that's older than you argue with you and say that this wouldn't work. And you could say, oh, this static using clause became available in Visual Studio 2015 that makes it to where you don't have to use that.
So is that only video studio, or it's like would it work in like Visual Studio Code?
Well, does it work for you in REPL?
I haven't tried it.
So REPL, remember, is using that other compiler, the open source compiler. So anything that would work in REPL should work in any of those other
And so
platforms.
yes, it did work.
It did work. And what's funny is when I first started creating all the REPLs, it didn't. So that's actually been an update that they've made on
So do you
REPL.
think people would move towards the static system, or do you think most people would?
I don't know. We'll see. It's a hard one because when you look at this code, it's much cleaner. But yet, if you notice, when you type the word console in the dot, that's when the IntelliSense editor is able to give you that drop down of everything that you can use within the console class. So you lose that. So as a developer, you lose the IntelliSense drop down. It does look a little abnormal to people that are used to that console keyboard. Yeah, it's just cleaner. Yes, sir.
If you use the static thing, are you still able to use a console dot? So you
Oh,
can
yeah.
still get it?
You could still put that in if you wanted to.
So we'll give you an error.
Right.
We'll give you a warning like this is unnecessary.
It might say that's unnecessary. but yeah. And then what's this one? We were getting these little weird dots. What are these green dots saying? Specifies constants that define foreground and background colors for the console. Use var to simplify. Well, var is just another data type. So I'm just going to ignore that message for now.
On the class on the methods themselves, it says inconsistent modifier style. On the class, it says it needs internal, and then on the methods, it says it needs the word private.
Oh, okay. So it's just helping us all over the place. Everywhere, everywhere. We're going to ignore those right now.
Generates some code, but it doesn't even like it.
Doesn't even like its own code. Exactly. That's right. Isn't it? Okay, so does it run? This is all in our main. We put it all in our main. We did a little different than the book. So right now, at the end, I have my read key. I'm going to comment that out. If I run this, then it's just going to flash. I'm going to put in my stuff. 26. And it's going to disappear, right? So how was it that I could run it to make it hold the console open without that read key? Without that. Control F5. So don't forget that, because a lot of times you want to run something, but you don't really want to modify the code. So if it's somebody else's, you might just want to use Control F5. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the read key in, because that is better for us. Yes.
So I'm just trying to understand what's happening in the color changing area. So is it the first line essentially setting previous color to whatever the foreground color is? So it's just assigning that color to the variable previous color.
Right.
And then you're changing it to yellow, doing the printout, the right line, and then changing it back to previous.
Exactly.
Okay.
Perfect. Now, look at each line of code like that, because that's exactly what we want to do. Our first 2 lines of code, first we're going to write out the prompt for our user. The second line of code, we're creating a variable. This variable is going to be the data type string. It's going to be named user name, and we're going to set it equal to the value that we read in from the console. So when we create a new variable using C#, this is our syntax. Data type first. So int, decimal, we'll be looking a lot at all of the different valid data types. And then after and notice too that the IDE will highlight that in blue. And you'll know that it recognized that as a valid data type. When it turns it blue, you lose that in REPL, right? And then after that, we have our variable name. And then if we want to assign a value, we're going to have an equal sign followed by whatever value. But we don't have to. We could end that variable declaration after the variable name with a semicolon, and that would be enough. We could also say string username, comma, user age, semicolon, and that would declare 2 variables is data type string. Now, whenever we work with a really type-specific programming language like this, like C#, we can never declare a variable without a data type. We always have to have one. And it's really picky about how it's going to let us use that. This is part of why you'll see C# performance so far outpacing those other programming languages that don't require that. Python is interpreted, so we expect it to have a poorer performance, but it really is also hit by the fact that it's not type specific. It lets you just say, oh, I want this variable, and it decides what type to make it, and it'll change it on the fly. So it's super flexible for us for programming, but it doesn't run as quickly. It's not as concise as a more type-specific programming language like C# or Java.
I know in Python you can have a user input 18 and it will be an integer, and you can then later convert it to a string. Sort of. Well, you just didn't can. Anyways, but can you do that in this? Can you do that?
Let's try it.
Later change it?
This is all running, right? So let's try it. We're perfect. We're at the right time. So let's say in our program, oh, wait, let me go over this statement and then we're going to get to that. Right here, the right line, I wanted to show it to you. Notice that our right line is a little different. The string that's going to be written out to the console is this kind of brownish one within the double quotes. But it has these parameters in it. Notice these 0 and 1 within the curly braces that are bright green. Whenever we put something like this within curly braces inside of a string, it's being used as a parameter. So this line of code says, write out this line, but as part of this string, replace the first parameter with the username variable value, replace the second parameter with the user age value. So we just embed those curly braces with numbers right in our string that we want to output, and that's how that parameter replacement works.
Would there be set, like mine didn't turn yellow like everybody else's did?
Yeah, mine didn't change colors either.
What are you guys doing? Are you guys in that white background?
No.
No, you're on the dark.
It's just not. I mean, it runs, I ran it, but the only thing we can see what was different is like mine didn't give me all the system. Which I don't know why I didn't do that. I didn't do it.
He wasn't studying it.
You said it's got.
No, you.
And just show that.
So what are you looking for then?
We'll just have like.
Oh, how those are green.
Yeah, mine, it still works though.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why it's not.
Probably to resharp. My guess would be whenever we first opened the studio and it said, how do you want to use ReSharper? You guys pick different options. Because ReSharper is part of what's making that highlighting happen. It's added to the IDE. Because I've never had it do that before, so it's got to be ReSharper.
So is there any way to change that now or no?
You'll have to Google it and see what you can find.
If I had 2 monitors, it would be more, but I don't have 2 monitors.
Yeah, I wish they would have.
I didn't know there's one right there next to it.
Dude, I wish the fire department
Boot
all
that
computers had 2 monitors. That would be amazing.
Don't go there. Don't make me mad.
Or better yet, the touchscreen one.
Don't make me mad. He's going to make me mad. You hear him? Every time, every year, I say we need dual monitors. We need a touchscreen. That's what I had in Carthage when I left. I was told I would have the same thing when I was here. Guess what? I don't. So yes, you guys should all have dual monitors. The IT staff actually says that they came over here and measured, and they said, you guys don't have room for 2 monitors.
Okay,
So-
let's get rid of the 4K monitor.
That was
Leave
their,
big monitor.
that was their, no kidding.
On a-
The accounting, oh, because you're accounting by type.
It's all built in.
It's such an important thing.
You don't get 4K monitor for coding.
You don't.
Yeah.
I think that was their like, we're sorry we wouldn't let you have dual monitors. So here, have these giant 4K
It's like,
monitors.
I can code in 144p. Like you can code it like blurry. It doesn't matter.
Well, especially with a 4 gig video card. All right, so let's do an if statement because we didn't get dual monitors. So we are going to add some things in. We want to do an if statement, and what I want to do is add a line of output to say whether this person is old enough to vote or not, okay? So we're going to look at their age that they type in and decide if they're old enough to vote. So I want to put in our first decision-making structure. And the thing about C# is, if you could get used to those curly braces, you can handle anything. Because that's really what gets beginning people are all of the curly braces. They get crazy, they're like everywhere. And so they can actually be a little bit of a distraction. So as long as we can keep those from being a problem, the rest of it is not that hard a syntax. So an if statement starts with the keyword if. Now, after the keyword if, we need a condition. It's true with any programming language. When we're making a decision, we need our condition for the decision that's going to result in a true or a false value. So with C#, I could put if A equals B or whatever I want in that decision, but it has to be within parentheses. My condition must be within parentheses. So for this one, I want to know if the user age is greater than or equal to 18. Now I see a lot of red. What's it upset about?
No, the string don't open a curly brace.
It's a string, and it doesn't like that. It's like you're trying to compare this to a number. So we need to convert that string to a number, like we were talking about earlier. So let's start out by declaring a variable that's an integer. And we're going to make that integer. We'll call it num age because it's numeric. All right. Now, what I would like to do is just change the user age to be an integer. And one thing that I can do is cast, the easiest thing. And to cast a variable says just put the data type you want to cast it as before it. And so this should say, take user age, cast it as an integer, and put it in num age. But it's still arguing with me. What's it say? So it still won't do it. Now, if I had a integer, it would let me cast it as a double, some other numeric, no problem. But it's not letting me do this cast because it's a string. It's saying you can't convert that. So we need to find something else. Let's go Google.
How about convert to N32?
Who would we do that? Let's see.
If we change, well, what I did was I changed the user age to an integer and then did the convert to N32.
Uh-huh.
And put the read line inside the Windows.
Oh, he's getting fancy.
User age became was read as an integer instead of a string.
Okay.
That was the thing I was trying to do on REPL and it didn't like it. I did that for some reason.
Like the end dot parse.
That's what I ended up having to do here, but that was in Visual Studio. I never even got the chance to try it on REPL because of family stuff.
Now, when you're trying to find out, you guys are right on it. I'm going to Google it. And this Google summary that I see right here at the beginning actually has enough for me. I don't even need to go any further. I see the convert to N32 that he's talking about. Now, if I needed more information, docs.microsoft.com, that's the C# manual, remember, that we were looking at. So that's a great place. This is telling me, these guys have it, they're telling us, let's do it that way. So I'm going to use this convert statement. Yeah, so I'll convert it to int 32, and then what I want to convert is my user age. Now, a couple of things, let's take a look at that. If I start reading way over at the far right, my line of code, and read it backwards, because we always read left to right, if we read right to left, we'll kind of be able to interpret our C# code easier. So my way of looking at it is if I start over here, I'm saying take the user age, convert it to N32, and save it in the num age integer. And then we've got everything there.
Could you like use user age again and convert user age and like have int user age equals convert dot 32 user age and have it convert itself back into itself, like like plus equals adding addition?
Whenever we're working with C#, we're type specific, so it was already an integer, so I couldn't convert it to an integer again.
Well, no, I'm saying like so it's a string.
But then I can't use that same variable name as a string and an integer.
Okay, so you can't.
Right, so it would have to be a complete, so yes, no. You're exactly right, and it won't handle it.
With the parse thing
Uh-huh.
that I found out and I used, it kept it as the same variable name.
Right, you want the parse, but it doesn't exactly. So we're going to be looking at that next time. So let me let you wait on that until we talk about it, because we don't have time to cover that today. So a couple of things. First of all, do I want to read data from the console directly into an integer variable?
Say that again.
Do I want to read data from the console directly into an integer variable? What if the user types something wrong?
No.
I'm going to blow up right then, right? I'm not going to have a chance to interpret that user's data and check it. My program's going to crash right then. So no, I never want to read from the console directly into a numeric variable. So instead, I want to read from the console into a string, check that string with a try parse or whatever, and make sure that it's a valid numeric data, and then I can convert it. I skipped that step here. I'm taking whatever they typed in and converting it. So right now, when we run this, we'll be able to break it really easy, because if we type in non-numeric data, it'll cancel. So let's put our if statement in first, and then we'll try it. So in my if statement, I don't want to check user age anymore. Now I want to check num age because I made that a number. So a lot of people, you guys, are saying that maybe it's hard on you to learn Python first because then you come into these languages that are more specific. I don't think that's true. I think that learning Python first is great because you get a language that works with you. But it does mean you have a little of head beating against the wall to do when you go to these harder ones. And they're harder just because they're older. So I got my if statement now. If num age is greater than 18, I want to write a message. Do what? I do not. I want to write a message. You are old enough to vote. Do I need a curly brace? Do I have one?
No, you don't.
No, I don't. Why do I not?
If it's just one line, that the interpreter.
Just one line. So it's totally fine if you have it. I would prefer you do. I just have to make sure everybody's aware because otherwise we all miss that test question that says it's okay to not have one because everybody's so used to putting them there like, no, you can't do that.
You can have just one line.
One line. Mhm. Just one line. And really that rule is true C# and Java. And it's true whether we're doing decision making or looping. So that rule is kind of across the board. So now let's run. We've got this if statement in. I want to try a couple of things. First thing I want to do is run it. And I want to try an age that's less than 18. So I'll put in my name and I'll say, I'm 16. Okay, you are 16 years old. It didn't tell me anything about voting. Is that okay?
Yep. Just skip the if statement.
Yeah, because in my if statement, it wasn't applicable, right? So it just went on past it. So now I'll run it again and I'll make my age older than 18. And now I get both messages that we're 20 years old and old enough to vote. So now try it and put in a letter, a non-numeric age. Crash, kaboom, kaboom. There it goes. So notice that looking at the console, everything looks fine. But if I minimize it, I'll see, oh, nope, it's not. I had some problems here because my input string was not in the correct format. It wasn't a number, and I tried to convert it to a number. So like I said, next time we'll look at that try-parse. Those of you that already did it, woohoo, you're on it. You get that going. Is everybody's working okay? Working okay? So let's put an else clause in. So I want you guys to have some lab time. Now, because I crashed, I've got to click the stop button. My program is still running, even though it's not really still running. So I need to click stop before I can make any additional code changes. Now I'm going to put in my else clause. And notice that because I just pressed enter, Visual Studio even popped the curly braces in there for me, and I had to get rid of them to be like, no, I don't want you. Now I'm going to write a line out. What do we want to say here? You are too young to vote. Now we should get two messages no matter what their age, right? Because if they're over 18, we should get the old enough to vote message. If they're under 18, we should get the too young message. Let's try it. Old enough. FBI's here. And I'm going to put in my 16, and I'm too young. So that looks right. Everything was good.
I actually put in 126.
They were old enough then? Now, what is it? Let's see. Convert to method call with, that's some dumb suggestion. It is totally dumb. I think that's coming from ReSharper, I really do. And I don't have that installed at home, so anything like that I'm unsure of. Okay, so we need to expand our if statements. But let's switch this around, and I want to do one thing that we didn't do in the other class, and then we'll come back to this other stuff next time. Curly braces are a bear, so we can find some tools to help us. So let's look. Go to your tools menu, and on your tools menu, click on extensions and updates. I want to find one, an extension that I've used before, and I know that it's out there somewhere in the cloud, so I'm going to click on online. And then it has something to do with curly braces. So I'm just going to click in the search and say, colorize curly braces.
Wow, I severely misspelled that.
Oh, there's a bunch of them. Now you guys can try as many of these as you'd like. The one that we use in class is this VS4A. I like it. It doesn't do any weird things. Let's try it. I'm just going to click on it, and I'm going to download it. And now it says that this modification is going to begin when all your windows are closed. That's all I had to do to install it. It's pretty quick and easy.
Where did you get to this?
Go to
Updates page?
Tools, Extensions and Updates. And then we clicked on Online. And then we searched for the colorized curly braces. And don't worry, because as you guys move computers, you'll have to do it again. It'll disappear. Yeah, and VS4A. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. There's all sorts of tools out here. If any of you guys find one that's just amazing, let us know. But I'm going to click close, and I'm going to close my project and reopen Visual Studio so we can see the colorized curly braces.
Mine crashed.
Is that computer broke?
This is Visual Studio. It was fine. Visual Studio did not like it though.
Visual Studio Code?
No, it's Visual Studio Enterprise. I hit the X and it decided it was going to stop responding. It just closed. Yeah. It didn't even ask me if I wanted to save anything. It just closed.
Damn it, Bethesda.
Now I've got to say modify to agree to my license here. It's installing it. Yeah, it should be. It says it's waiting on these tasks. I'm going to close Visual Studio again. What's wrong with you? There it goes. I had to actually close it again to get it to finish. So I had to open it again to get it to start and close it again to get it to finish. Maybe. See if it'll get done.
Good job, Microsoft.
Didn't remember it being this slow. Finally there. And I'll show you mine so that you know it's worth it. Now, if you zoom in or not, you should be able to see all of the pretty curly braces.
God,
So now I've got green ones here and fuchsia ones and orange ones, and your colors should match up. So that's what's so nice about the color-coded curly braces. If I look down at the bottom and I don't have a matching orange one, I know that I'm missing that closing curly brace. All right?
I think I like that.
Now, if you don't like it, you can just delete it. Some people hate it. Wind chill advisory. Getting colder. Okay, lab time. Now, work on your REPLs so that you can let me know if you're having trouble with one of them. We got the if statement one going, the other one that from last week that's due tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, your 2 numbers is due. And then you're working on the gas station one for next week, which will be a lot like the 2 numbers. So they're very, very similar. Any questions?
Yeah, mine won't even open back up.
No, it's just broken completely. Right here. See that?
Never. You will always be putting this language.
Yeah, I didn't see that one first time. I didn't read it.
I promise that guy with me.
I didn't see that.
Thank you. I didn't notice it either. I saw it online. I don't know why it's so slow this semester. Last semester was super fast. Probably because they added a lot of stuff.
Maybe that'll change because it's in summer.
And how far did you get open? Which was when you were there?
I got the last one done. I just got this first one. I didn't take that.
I'm not sure.
I just noticed it's
Right, so we switched. With time wise. I've seen it like flashing. And I didn't know it was and I never stopped watching. Yeah.
I don't know programs on
I don't know if I like the pencil. And then it drops down.
You
It shouldn't do that. It should have been okay. No, I think it glitched the same way on mine, and I was able to take that out.
Did you get your score?
Oh, yeah, I have it on my phone. I don't know what
The only difference I can find is I have slightly bigger.
You can search for it. So I wonder if it's
Right.
But yeah, I got this space here. It fails test. But then and normally it would tell you to visit.
I think I put it in the wrong line.
Exit out of everything. Exit out of all of it. Like exit.
That's the only reason. So you need that. You need it when it has. So you put it up above. Stay like this.
Then when that's good to start.
First, and then once that changes,
Yeah.
you do it.
So your scope is to like it just gives you the easy system. They want you to type all of this and type all of it. I went on this to type it.
No, I started this seems so. I don't have to do that.
Oh, I've been here with it. Thank you.
I think this is what I did wrong. It's the URL. space you are. And spaces within this, that's definitely not right. I don't even know what it is.
Our space program was understanding. Perfect.
Sure. What was the workspace thing to the CIS? No spaces? Right. Just like that.
I can stop our Zoom session. I can keep making these super long videos because I wander around on it. I need a teaching assistant, right?